Seafaring's image disaster, attracting young people to go to sea, gearing up for the shift to alternative fuels, and the importance of cooperation between seafarer unions and the industry. Welcome to the Seatrade Maritime podcast. You're listening to Marcus Hand, editor of Seatrade Maritime News. Today you'll be hearing from Larry Gwee, Assistant General Secretary of the Singapore Maritime Officers Union. During the conversation, we focus on attracting talent to take up a career as a seafarer, how the union is helping its members and the industry gear up for the energy transition, and the importance of tripartism between unions, employers and government. Larry, thanks so much for taking the time today to talk to our listeners. Could you briefly introduce yourself and SMOU?
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. So I am Larry Gwee. I am the Assistant General Secretary of SMOU. And quite recently, late last year, I was also elected in to the NTUC Central Committee. So SMOU in a whole, we do sign collective bargaining agreement with the different shipping company, trying to bring in the minimum benchmark for the rights and welfare for seafarers. We do also have our welfare committee that kind of look after the local members, ensuring that we roll out benefit to the Singaporean members. One of them will be the Lighthouse Bistro, which I think some of you may have had meal there before. So as members, they get discount, and a lot of our members actually use it as a gathering point. And then it's nice to see all the seafarers coming together. So that's what the union stands for. We are here for our members and try to protect the seafarers' rights and welfare.
That's great. Just to sort of talk a bit more generally about the industry and where SMOU fits. Seafaring and shipping in general have a bit of an image problem. How can an organisation like SMOU help overcome this?
I think that is more of an understatement in a way. We don't have an image problem, we have an image disaster. I'll put it very simple. As a parent, how many out there are willing to send or advise their kids to take up a maritime career? And recently we had a forum. We openly asked out in the audience, and I hardly see a hand that actually raised up. And that itself tells you how bad it is. People that is in the maritime industry is already not supporting the career itself. So how can SMOU actually help to overcome this? Recently, I read a book by Adam Grant. I think it's Think Again. I think we have to take the emotional out of the whole thing and look at it from a scientist perspective. And if you break it down, how can we actually make seafaring, in short, sexy again? It goes back down to the basic of welfare. It goes down to the basic of seafarers' rights. So how does SMOU come in? So when we sign collective bargaining agreement with our CBA company, we kind of ensure that this is kind of taken care of so that it becomes a career that people want to come in. So like seafarers that have just joined the maritime career, SMOU is there to make sure that we help him progress all the way through his career. And I think what is important, SMOU do come in a lot of time beyond that CBA itself. We also looked at how the whole industry can come together. So SMOU believe in collaborating with our shipping company, with MPA, working together to see how can we actually lift the whole image of the seafaring career. And I think what is really nice, I think recently Straits Times actually shared the few career that has highest wages. And surprisingly, one of the maritime career, which is a oil bunker trader, if I remember correctly, was actually quite on top. And I think we need more of this. We need more of positive news out there to actually help the maritime industry. Whenever there's something good about the maritime, it never goes on the front page. So I think everybody has to come in, push the right button, like what you're doing here. How do we get that messaging out to everybody so that how can we convert the unconverted to come into the maritime industry as well? It is a very good career. From the union perspective, we want seafarers to really go all the way to captain or all the way to chief engineer. But we know nowadays the younger people think a little bit differently. 10 years may be a bit too long for them. So how does the union work here is that we ensure that we work with the shipping company, with MPA again, to see what are the different career paths that we can have for this younger one. Even as third officer, even as second officer, there's avenue for them to come ashore, hoping that this can make it a more positive career for this youngster. So that is what SMOU does. Beyond looking at collective bargaining agreement, we try to collaborate with the different partners, industry players, to really bring up the whole image of the maritime career.
I mean, you described it as an image disaster, and that's quite strong words. How do you overcome that, especially when you're looking at a population here that has a lot of career choices in a place like Singapore?
And then you're absolutely right. For example, in recently I had a word with Indian master, and what he shared is that in the past, only the best of the best goes into the maritime. Today is no longer that. They have the IT and other careers is picking them up. How can we do it? There is no silver bullet, in my opinion. It really has to come in a collaborative way where everybody comes together. And I think that's where tripartism plays a part. It is easier when the government and the shipping companies is working together with you instead of against you. And for SMOU in particular, we do have our young SMOU to kind of make sure that the concern that the seafarers have is taken care of so that they can then spread the message that it is a good career. Because the best thing is to hear from the horse's mouth. So our young SMOU is really doing a good job ensuring that we listen to the young, know what problem they're facing, and then when they bring it up to SMOU as a whole, we see how do we address it by working with the different stakeholders within the industry, hoping that they will themselves will find that it is a very meaningful career and they can then share it within their friends and their social media. And hopefully that will then create a positive vibe.
Are you just focused purely on promoting the career to Singaporeans? Because, I mean, many of your members are non-Singaporeans under the CBAs.
In short, SMOU covers everyone.
Yeah.
But I think in a way, if I look at India, if I look at Philippines, there is still people interested to go into the maritime career, particularly because as a seafarers, the salary is slightly higher than what you can get ashore. So automatically, you're still able to attract a little bit of people coming into the maritime. Singapore as a whole, we face a much bigger problem. A lot of other industries pulling them in. Accountant, aviation, you name it. Most of the industry is short of Singaporeans and everybody is trying to pick a piece out from that pie. So there is one bigger problem in Singapore. And why we say that? If we don't have seafarers coming in today, 15 years later, who is going to take on those leadership positions in the different shipping company, in MPA? And how are we going to maintain our status as a maritime hub if we don't have this talent with us? That's why I say that, yes, SMOU does look after the different part of the globe, but I think primarily the acute shortage is more or less in developing country or developed country, and Singapore just happens to be one of them.
So the efforts you're primarily looking in terms of bringing people into the industry and increasing attractiveness is locally.
Locally. So for the rest, what we do for them is to make sure that we look after their well-being. Just a few years back during COVID, we ran through mental health seminar for our Filipino, for our Indian, for our Ukraine officers. So I think different area need different solution. So for them, it's less of attraction, but more on how do we retain them? How do we ensure that they have their rights and their well-being is looked after? In Singapore, we haven't even reached that stage. It's kind of really to attract people into the career first.
Can you share with our listeners what it is you're doing? You mentioned the young SMOU there, and any successes you've had in terms of bringing young people from Singapore into seafaring.
Yes, I'm very happy to share. If I looked at, I think 10 years back when we started our first TNTA program, where we started a program together with our training partner, WMI, to start training Singaporeans to be seafarers. And today, we do have them sitting on SMOU Executive Committee. We do have a few of them working as superintendent in the different shipping company. We also have one of them that is now a lecturer in SMA. So these are actually very heartwarming success story that how we actually help this group of Singaporeans move out from their career in the past, which they were a bit stuck, and then give them a meaningful career out. So to me, I say, how can we then continue to mimic that and have more Singaporeans into this very meaningful career?
Yeah, so this is where people are sort of converting mid-career, isn't it?
Exactly. I think that's where collaboration works. So for example, SMA, their target audience is really the O-level student that is coming out and all this. And for WMI or SMOU, we're kind of looking at the mid-careerists. So in a way, we are kind of widening the net to make sure that the young, the really young, the 18, 19 O-level, there's a catchment there. And the mid-careerists that really wants to change a career and wants a more fulfilling career, we also have a catchment there.
One of the things that a lot of people are talking about right now is the fuel transition. If I remember rightly, you have simulators for alternative fuels there. Could you tell our listeners a bit about what you've invested in there?
Correct. So earlier this year, I think we invested close to over $2 million to make sure that our simulator is ready to start training our new methanol, LNG, I think even as much as hydrogen. Just that the software isn't in yet, but at least the hardware is ready there. But I think the issue here is a little bit less of what we can train, but I think it comes back to a bit more of overall, where is shipping heading in the first place? I spoke to a few ship owners. Some are very excited about it. Some are having that wait and see. Because in short, they are not sure what is the next fuel. Some people is talking about methanol, some people is talking about ammonia, some is talking about hydrogen, some even go as far out as nuclear, right? So in a way, when we talk about training for seafarers, we also have to be mindful that we don't want to raise resources. We don't want, in a way, we train everybody to be ready for methanol, and suddenly the world shift and says that ammonia is the answer. Then that becomes very counterproductive. So in a way, for WMI, what we are trying to do is to make sure that we have the right skill set, we have the right hardware ready. And when the shipping company needs that training, that's where we can tie in with them to roll it out. But in my personal opinion, again, it is difficult to really step on the gas and go full speed because there's still kind of a question mark exactly where the maritime is kind of heading in a way. Everybody is talking about we need to have our net zero target by 2050. But it just seems that the correct approach, that seems to be a bit.
So it's that sort of chicken and egg thing of what do you train for because you don't know what fuel the owners are going to use.
Exactly.
So how are you handling that situation at the moment, Larry?
In short, we get ourselves ready, make sure that the hardware that we purchase is able to train the different type of fuel. And we are also working with MPA to make sure we get the right approval, the right endorsement for the different program. So when all this is set in place, I can say that SMOU and WMI is ready to work with anyone that want to move that forward.
You're seeing a lot of new technology coming into the industry as well, and I think sort of talk of more like remote control for some roles potentially on ships. How are you dealing with the influx of new technology and the role of the seafarer within that?
Before going into that question, I would really love to share that it is a very positive step for the maritime industry as a whole. To be fair, before COVID, shipping is a very analog industry, and it's very, very difficult to get young people into an analog industry. I'm very happy now that, with all this new technology coming in, automation coming in, it is getting a bit more sexy. And the young one now feels that, okay, if I come into the maritime industry, I'm able to say that I now play a part in ensuring that the carbon is being reduced, carbon reduction and all this. So that is where I think technology and all this have come in and kind of make the career a little bit more attractive. And I fully agree with you. Even within SMOU, when we do our strategic planning and all this, we are also looking at, in a few years' time, SMOU will be celebrating our 75th anniversary. And before long, it will be the 100th. So we kind of have a milestone and looking at when SMOU hit 100, how does shipping look like? Autonomous vessel may be one of them, where everything is being robotically controlled. Seafarers need not to be out at sea. But then it comes back to one very interesting question that we have. If a person doesn't sail, how would he or she has the experience of sailing a vessel? So coming back to the chicken and egg, I think at the end of the road, we feel that technology should make the work for seafarers easier, but it shouldn't take away the job itself. Because if you start taking away seafarers, long before you know it, there will not be anyone with that experience to be able to design a program for shipping. They will not be able to understand what shipping is all about. So I don't really think we should remove seafarers, but in a way, how can we ensure that our seafarers is adequately trained to be able to use the technology to support them and make their life easier?
So you need that practical experience at sea and an understanding of what it's like to work on the ocean.
My personal experience is that you still need a bit of hands-on to truly understand what shipping is all about.
Now you talk there about technology helping seafarers in their roles, but also when I talk to people in ship management and things like this, they also talk about the overload that technology is providing with people from the shore saying, I need this report and so forth. So is there a balance that needs to be struck here?
One of the biggest issues that we are currently facing now for seafarers is the amount of administration work. I go as far to share that now a lot of seafarers are taking administration work more important than the actual work itself. So it comes back down to a sense where how we can use technology to ease off some of this administration burden. Blockchain, for example. If a ship goes into a port, the master must fill up a lot of forms before going into port. I honestly think there is a solution out from it where if we kind of use blockchain, and even before the ship enters a port, it is able to submit those data and information off to the port itself. And that should ease off administration work. I just think that right now, the shipping industry as a whole still doesn't see that problem painful enough to really have a solution out from it. But I think if it continue, or the pain is enough, the shipping will move towards there, and we should have a lot more mundane jobs that can be automated with the technology we have.
Yeah. You mentioned collaboration there. Is this one of the things that you might collaborate with people in the industry, other companies and members?
Yep. So collaboration is always kind of right on top for SMOU because in a way, we are just a union. There's limitation on what we can do. But when you come together with MPA, with the shipping company, there's a lot more. And I do like how we get feedback from a lot of our shipping company to say that when they look around the different countries, they are very happy to work with SMOU because we kind of bring on the table where we are more of a partner rather than a union per se. We kind of understand where the shipping company needs to go, and we come in to say that, all right, this is what my seafarers need. Let me know how can I help you to achieve what my seafarers need. So I think that is where that collaboration and that relationship helps. And at times, even when a shipping company runs into a problem, that is where how they can work with us and we collaborating with MPA to ensure that problem is being resolved. So that's where I think that collaboration comes in and will continue if we really want Singapore or maritime to thrive in Singapore.
So this is that sort of tripartite relationship, which I know Stephen Cotton from the ITF always praises Singapore for.
Yes, I think tripartism is something that we cannot take for granted. It is built over the years in the past where we really have bad relationship with each other, and how the government actually continue to push with tripartism and where we reached our stage today, where I can easily pick up the phone either to the shipping company or to MPA, to the authorities, to kind of say that, hey, I have this problem. How can we resolve it? Not many of my unionists in other countries can do that. And I think that's something that I truly appreciate because items can be solved at the lowest level and at the most efficient level instead of going everywhere to solve a very simple problem. So coming back to tripartism, I think one thing that I just want to remind everyone that we really shouldn't take it for granted because it is something that is built over the years. The newer management and the newer unionists may not really see the need for tripartism because in today's context, everything is very easy. There is no conflict, there is no real problem. So there may be a vision or there may be a sense that people see that tripartism may not be as important as in the past. But I just want to remind that a lot of things that we have today is really built on tripartism, especially in Singapore, and we should continue that relationship to ensure that we can give our seafarers the right support and the right push.
Presumably that is what has created that atmosphere where you don't have a lot of conflict.
Exactly, you're right on that front.
Could you perhaps just give a couple of specific examples of how tripartism has worked in the shipping industry here?
Oh, simple. There was once a ship enter a port and the port state was giving them quite a bit of problem for a very simple problem. So they actually reached out to us. So we contacted MPA. I contacted my ITF inspector in that particular port. And together, a two-pronged approach, we actually spoke to the port state control over at that port and managed to resolve that issue for the shipping company with the assurance from the shipping company that, all right, the item will be resolved by the time it hits the port. So I think that is where I come back to say that if you have the trust and you have the relationship, a lot can be done. The vessel was pretty much stuck there, but because of that relationship that we have, I'm able to contact MPA. I'm able to have that relationship with the ITI inspector in that particular port, who then spoke to the port state control And with the assurance from the union, the vessel left very shortly, and the problem was resolved even before it reached the next port.
Okay, great. So trust and relationships.
Yes.
Now, is it the 75th anniversary of SMOU or is it coming?
It's coming, 2026.
Any plans yet for the anniversary?
We do have a lot of exciting plans,
Yeah.
but I think I'm not going to let the rabbit out of the hat. I think you guys have to wait and kind of look out for our social media on what is coming for our 75th anniversary.
Okay, great. We'll definitely look out for those. What social media platforms are you
I'm on both Facebook and LinkedIn on that front.
Okay. Now, just looking ahead again, but let's take a 5-year time frame. Have you got specific plans?
So I think quite immediate is that we have actually relaunched our Tripartite Maritime Training Award, and that has stopped over the last 2-3 years. But I'm very happy to announce that it's restarting with the support of the MPA and E2I, where they will come in to fund part of the program, and the other part they will fund part of the training allowance while the student is going through the program itself. So what we really hope that in the next 5 years, we will start having a new pipeline of youngsters coming into the maritime, looking at the alternate field, looking at technology. I think that is how a union can continue to be in front of the curve to make sure that we are ready to be there to assist our members, to train our members to accept or to be able to use those technology to be to their advantage. I think recently somebody shared that AI will replace jobs. No, it's not AI that will replace jobs. People that know how to use AI will replace people that do not know how to use AI. So with the same principle, I think for SMOU, we need to ensure that our members are really equipped to take on new technology so that they're not being replaced by people that know how to use that technology. So broadly speaking, for the next 5 years, it's a lot of training. It's about bringing new people into the maritime industry and how we continue to provide welfare, benefit for seafarers while protecting the rights of our members.
Excellent, Larry. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to our listeners today. And please follow Larry Gwee on social media. He's on LinkedIn and Facebook. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It's my real pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Seatrade Maritime podcast. We look forward to joining you on the next episode.